Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at our first Art Form specific webinar. My name is Paula Lockhart, and I am the GSA's Associate Director. So before I talk a little bit about myself, I would like to know a little bit about you. So my friends who are here, if you could, in the chat, tell us your name and let us know what county you're from. Hello, Tip from Knox County. Hey, Sarah from Alden. Hey, JP from J-Town. Hello. Hey, Samuel from Jefferson. Hey, Jaden from Spencer. Amazing. All right, y'all, before we get started, I'm just going to launch a quick poll. It just has 3 questions. Amazing. I see y'all answering the poll. Great. Okay, y'all are being quick with this today. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll and we're gonna share it out. All righty, so looks like a majority of our folks here today are in a high school sophomores or juniors. So I'm so excited that you all are here taking advantage of this webinar to learn about our instrumental music program. And then we have some parents or guardians. Thank you so much for being such an amazing advocate for your students. All right, let's see. Of course, most of us are here to learn about GSA's exciting instrumental music program, but we do have some folks who are interested in creative writing too. That is amazing. GSA is big on interdisciplinary collaboration, so we definitely want all of our artists to be exploring all the art forms that they are interested in. Okay, and it looks like more than half of you have attended a GSA 101 session. That's amazing. And for those of you who haven't attended a GSA 101 session, no worries. We have 2 more that are coming up here in the fall. And then we also have 2 that are online that have been previously recorded so that you can watch those as well. All of you joining us on Facebook or either watching this a few days later via YouTube, feel free to go to our website to find all of our necessary information, okay? Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so I am going to stop sharing. A few things to know before we get started. So we do have the lovely chat feature on here where anyone can drop any questions or anything they would like to say. However, we also do have the Q&A feature. So at the end of this presentation, we are going to be taking at least 10 or 15 minutes to answer any questions that you may have. So if you do have any questions, please feel free, put them in the Q&A, put them in the Q&A box and we will get to them, okay? So are y'all ready to see who we're going to be joined by, who's going to be doing this webinar with us? If you're ready, let me get like a thumbs up or like the applause emoji in the chat. Okay, I got a yes. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, got some thumbs up. Okay, Cadence. Okay, Steve. Amazing. So I think everyone is just waiting to know who is going to be here doing this webinar with us. So my 2 amazing counterparts, do you all mind unmuting yourselves? And let's start these introductions. All righty, so I am joined by GSA faculty member, Dr. Rich Byrd. Rich is one of our instrumental music faculty members and is wearing a very cool, I don't know if y'all can see or not, it's a very cool, very vintage GSA shirt. So Rich, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your role with GSA, and your roles outside of GSA.
Sure, Paula. My name is Rich Byrd, and I have been teaching at GSA for many years. And my role there is faculty for the instrumental music discipline. And I also am the chair of the instrumental discipline area. And I've been serving as faculty administration liaison, which is kind of like a dean of faculty over the years too. But primarily, I teach every day at GSA as instrumental faculty in the brass area. My instrument is trumpet, but I do work with all the instruments. So anybody has any question about any of the instruments, I can answer that for you. And then outside of GSA, I teach at Eastern Kentucky University. I teach the music department. I teach all theory classes. I taught formerly at another school before here, both trumpet and theory. And then I joined EKU's faculty, and I'm teaching all concentrated theory courses, but I still play trumpet all the time in anything that's probably a 100-mile radius from Lexington, wherever they'll hire a trumpet player. So
amazing. Thank you so much, Rich. Natalie.
Hello. My name is Natalie Thompson. I am the GSA program coordinator. I am a 2015 musical theater alum of the program, and have been on summer staff a few times in a couple different roles. I served as an RA and then as well as an administrative intern before joining the team full time. Big part of my job is monitoring and kind of responding to emails in the GSA info inbox, as well as answering calls on the GSA helpline. So if you ever call or email us, it is likely that it's me or another one of my amazing coworkers that you're talking to. So I think we'll mention it later, but there are no scary adults at GSA, just us here to help you. So yeah, that's kind of one of the main functions I serve on the team.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natalie. And as I said earlier, my name is Paula Lockhart. I'm GSA's Associate Director. I've been with GSA since 2021. I am not a GSA alum. I'm actually from Georgia, so did not have GSA in Georgia. So Kentucky is a really, really special state in that regard. As a GSA Associate Director, I oversee a lot of the big picture things here at GSA in terms of our logistical things, handling auditions, scheduling auditions, hiring summer staff. So all the back behind the scenes things, that is what I'm about when it comes to GSA. I am still an artist though. I do theater. That is actually I would say my artistic route. I am an actor, director, and a playwright. And I'm really, really happy to be working here at GSA where I can help others realize their artistic potential. So before we get started having an amazing conversation with Rich, I am going to take us through a short slideshow about GSA. And awesome. Thank you so much for attending, Rachel. So I'm going to take us through a quick slideshow. So I'm going to share my screen. Amazing. Okay, so if you all were not already aware, today's session is a part of a larger series of virtual info sessions that GSA Admin is hosting throughout the fall for applicants, parents, and educators. So we hope that you all will take advantage of these resources and any other resources that we have, ask us questions, and feel free to connect with the GSA team. So our GSA 101 webinars, as I stated earlier, we had two in the fall, we had two earlier in the fall. However, we have the recordings online for you to view. And then our next GSA 101 is going to be happening on November 13th. October 5th, which was, I can't believe October 5th was so long ago. Our application portal has opened. The GSA 2024 applicant guides have been released, and our application walkthrough video is now live. So that means you have everything at your fingertips to be able to apply for GSA 2024. And if you're not sure what an applicant guide is, we will talk about that as well. So our art form specific webinars, here are all the dates for our art form specific webinars. We're starting off bright and early with instrumental music. And then tomorrow we are going to have dance. Now, if you have some friends who are really interested in attending today, but they weren't able to attend, no worries. This webinar will be online, the recording of today's webinar will be online within the coming days. Now, most of our webinars will take place around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Time. However, for all information, feel free to check out our website to get any more information. Okay, so please know that these info sessions are not the only way to get information about the GSA application GSA application process. You can contact GSA with any kind of application question at our helpline, which is 502-566-5192. We are open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., so feel free to call us, or if you're more comfortable emailing, please feel free to email us at gsainfo@kentuckyperformingarts.org. So as Natalie said earlier, there are no scary adults at GSA waiting to judge you. We love chatting with our applicants, and it is our job and our pleasure to help you get your application completed. So please feel free to reach out to us whenever you have any questions, and also give us a follow on social media. On Facebook, we are the Kentucky Governor's School for the Arts, and on Instagram, our handle is @KYGSA. So our social media platforms will always have the most up-to-date information as well. So let's quickly review some information about the summer program. So GSA is a 3-week residential program that takes place on a college campus. Students attend GSA for one of our 9 art forms, and the program is completely tuition-free. Students are immersed in an intense, challenging, yet exhilarating learning environment in one of the art forms. And while each student is just focusing on that one, interdisciplinary collaboration is a major component of the program. This means that students are exposed to and encouraged to engage with other art forms, other than their own. So we expect to take approximately 512 students each session, and this is thanks to the supplemental funding provided by the Kentucky Department of Education. So a few items of note. Students who are applying must currently be a high school sophomore or junior. We will never ask for any GPA or SAT or ACT scores during this process, and you can apply for up to 2 art forms. Now, our application fee has raised this year. The application fee is $35 for 1 art form, and an additional $15 if you plan to apply for 2 art forms. Now, if you are on free and reduced lunch, this application fee is waived completely with the click of a button, no questions asked. Now, while we are thrilled to speak with you today about instrumental music, and we're pretty confident today's session will be very helpful. Remember, the virtual info sessions are not meant to be 100% comprehensive. There are other important resources that you should learn to utilize. And of course, please look on our website. Now, be sure to read the applicant guide for your art form of interest. We're going to review the applicant guide for instrumental music today, but you should take some time to review it as well. Okay, so the GSA 2024 application is due by end of day, January 14th. Now note that this is a Sunday and the GSA offices are not staffed on the weekends. So this means that January 12th is the last day that you can call or email us with any questions. Do not wait till the last minute to upload your application if at all possible. The application system is going to inherently run slowly as more people are trying to submit in the final 1 or 2 days. So do yourself a favor and get your application in nice and early. Personally, I recommend completing your application at least 1 week in advance of the January 14th deadline. Now, students will learn if they've advanced to the second and final round on February 16th, about 1 month before the final round auditions and reviews take place on March 15th and 16th. GSA's final round auditions will be hybrid. This means that some auditions and reviews will take place in person at the University of Kentucky, and some will take place online via Zoom. Full details are in each applicant guide. We will announce the GSA 2024 class as well as any alternates placed on the wait list on April 12th. Finally, the dates for GSA 2024 are, well, let's start with session 1. Session 1 is going to be June 9th through June 29th, 2024. And session 2 will be July 7th through July 27th, 2024. Natalie, could you please put these dates in the chat for me? Thank you. All students will attend one of 2 sessions listed above. Students are assigned which session they attend and will learn students will be assigned the session that they're going to attend, and they will learn this along with learning if they have been accepted to the program. So though most art forms take place in both sessions, design will only be held in session 1 and dance will only be held in session 2. So I'm going to say that one more time. Although most art forms take place in both sessions, design is only going to be held in session 1 and dance is only going to be held in session 2. Amazing. If there's anything that I went over about the program that you all have any questions about, again, please feel free to put it in the Q&A feature and we will answer it towards the end of today's webinar. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and let's go ahead. So Rich, I am going to go ahead and pull up the instrumental music applicant guide. But while I'm getting that pulled up, could you just tell us a little bit just tell us what it's like to attend GSA for instrumental music?
Well, it's quite busy.
Yes.
You will definitely not be bored. The GSA instrumental music program is primarily focused on chamber music. So this is not like other programs where you're in a band or an orchestra. There's no large ensemble. It's all small chamber ensembles. So that would include duets, trios, quartets, quintets, anything that's pretty much one instrument or one person on a part. So even jazz band is technically chamber music because there is one first trumpet, one second trumpet, one third. We don't double up on anything. So that's what chamber music is, and that's what we focus on. So we have rehearsals every day toward that. And then of course we have a wide variety of other training that we would typically expect for instrumental music, including theory classes and music history classes and seminars relating to instrumental music. And of course we have interdisciplinary sessions, collaborations that Paula mentioned earlier that we do with other art forms, which are really a lot of fun. And then we have guest artists coming in, doing presentations on special music topics. And then we have also adjunct faculty that come work one-on-one with students on their instrument specific. While there are 5 instrumental music faculty who are represent each area, if we don't play that particular instrument, we bring an expert in that instrument. So I am the trumpet player of the brass person. And so we will bring in someone who is a French horn expert, who is a euphonium expert, tube expert, trombone expert, that type of thing.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rich. So I've shared my screen. Can you all see the applicant guide for instrumental music? Do I need to zoom in at all? Okay. Rich, do you see it okay?
Yes, I do.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is the applicant guide. This is the document that I was referencing earlier that has all of the information that you will need to apply for GSA in instrumental music. So I'm going to scroll down And I am going to start with the preliminary round application requirements. So these are the things that we that have to be completed by January 14th in order for your application to be considered just in order for your application to be considered, we gotta have all these materials. So recommendation forms. Rich, can you talk a little bit about your stance on recommendation forms?
Yes, usually you should definitely find somebody who knows something about your ability and your art form. It's nice if they know something about you academically, but we're really trying to see what they know and can speak toward your art form. So obviously it would be someone who is a music teacher, whether it's in the school or a private teacher or something like that. It's okay to get somebody outside who might speak to your ability or your character or something like that. But ideally, we'd like to hear from somebody who has at least had some kind of experience with seeing you in doing something in your art form. And the other thing that I always like to mention, and this is good advice to remember for the rest of your life, is that anytime you ever get a recommendation from anyone, it is always advisable to first ask their permission and say, would you please write me a letter of recommendation for whatever it is? And so that they know and they're not surprised later. They might have already given you a blanket saying, anytime you need a recommendation, put my name down, but that's a different story. But if they've never said anything like that, it's probably always good to ask them first, I would like to use your name for this situation. Is that okay? And then, of course, if they know you real well, they'll probably give you permission, and then you write their names down.
Awesome. So Rich, how do you and the fellow instrumental music faculty use the recommendation forms?
Well, we just let you know, because sometimes, especially any parents or band directors listening to this, they think, well, this is just a formality, and the judges don't have time to read those. And I'll let you know that we read all of them. I've talked to my cohorts in instrumental music, and we read all the recommendation forms for the students. It is telling to us to see if someone has something favorable or non-favorable to say about you. Most of the time they're favorable, which is good. But that's very important because they tell why this person should be accepted, what this person has background. So it's something we do read, we do take seriously. And again, you should find somebody that can speak toward your ability in your art form.
Awesome. Thank you. So for the preliminary round, we have the recommendation forms, and then we have a personal short essay and the personal question video. So I'm going to scroll down here. Just more information. All right. So the personal short essay and the personal question video, these are the same across all 9 art forms. So that is something that no matter what art form you're applying for, those 2 things will be the same. So Rich, I'm curious to know, what are you looking for with these, and how can an applicant best formulate their responses?
Great question. We are definitely looking for something specific in this, and that is for you to tell us something about yourself and be, just like we said, be open and honest, authentic. We want to hear from you in your own words, whether it's the written one or the one that you talk on and make a video recording of, in your own words, what you are like as a person, how you're like as an artist, what you like to do, all those type of things. It's not really advisable to make this into an English essay, or at least for instrumental music. And we're not going to be sit there correcting your grammar with a red pen and looking for the most appropriate way and the perfect way to say things. We just want an authentic, real answer from you about who you are and what you like to do, and just answering the questions, just like I said, as far as what you'd say. I mean, you can always get the advice of other people, but it's not really advisable to get somebody to write it for you. Don't have mom and dad write it for you. Don't have a counselor write it for you, a teacher write it to you, saying that they're going to be looking at stuff, you know, that they want this to be written like very, very formally, and it has to be correct grammar and all this kind of stuff. I mean, you should put your best foot forward and just don't slot through it, but you do not need to make this an English essay competition. We just really want to find out the real you, not the fake you, the real you. So try not to think about what strategically would the judges like to hear the most, because we just want an open, honest thing about what you're like. And that's important. And then I do want to say, just kind of piggybacking back on the other thing, because I forgot this about the recommendations. It is best if you find someone I said who knows your ability, but I mean knows personally your ability, because they might know of you and they get your resume. And sometimes we get these recommendations from people and they say, this person has been in Allstate, this person has been in this ensemble and that, and they probably never heard you play or don't even know you or barely know your name. So while they can read a resume and restate it for us, it's better if you find someone who knows you personally, who's heard you play, that type of thing. So I did want to add that on that as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So now we are getting down to our art form specific questions or uploads. So what you see here, you'll see more in accepted, but if there's anything that is specific to instrumental music, those questions will be on accepted for you to answer. However, each instrument has to turn in some scales and some prepared solo pieces. So let me scroll on down. So Rich, could you talk a little bit about the scales and the prepared pieces?
Yes, the scale criteria for all the instruments is very detailed and it's very specific. So make sure you read through all that as far as what scales to play, how they're to be played, what order they're to be played, and the way they're to be played, as far as by memory, up and down, and that type of thing. Paul, if you could scroll down just a little bit more, I just want to make sure I'm seeing all this right. So they got a rhythm, there's the octaves, and the style that you're supposed to play them in, and the transposing type of thing. So just if you just read everything, because we're very careful to list all this on here in great detail. The pianist, you probably can see there is a rhythmic pattern up there for pretty much the wind players. I think the pianist might do it a little differently, but again, everything is very detailed listed underneath each area. So it is very important for you to read and follow the directions. You'll probably hear that as a theme throughout this webinar, is directions, because that's important, not only for getting into the program, but just for the rest of your musical life. So while it looks like a lot of stuff to read, it is, and it's probably something maybe some people are not used to or don't want to do. That's definitely advisable to read those and do those things, because we are looking for those things that we list. And what happens is sometimes people just assume I know how to play scale. I'll just kind of browse through and see what I kind of do. Yeah. And then they kind of submit them and they're not how we asked for it. And so then you're not going to score as well, because they're not giving us what is required that everyone else is doing. So make sure you read those carefully and play those. Now the scales, while they were all detailed and spelled out like that, I could say something else about them is make sure you take these seriously, because we listen to these all, not like, yeah, I got the scale, I missed a few notes here. It's good enough. Because you don't want to just say that. You want to give yourself plenty of time to record these things. If you're not happy with them, or maybe your face is all tired from marching band rehearsals or whatever, then you'll have plenty of time to re-record them and put your best foot forward, because you don't want to just do this at the last minute and submit something that you're not going to be happy with. That's not going to help you move forward. So give yourself plenty of time to record these, listen back to them and say, are these accurate? Are these everything that's required on here? And is this the best I can possibly do? And if it's not the best you possibly can do, then re-record them and send us the best you can possibly do, because it's an important thing. We listen to them, and all music is based on these scales. So we don't ask you all the scales that are available, but those select ones. And if you can't play those, it's sort of telling, even though your piece might be in good shape, what you'd be like as far as learning other music. So it's very, very important to make sure you not only read this and play this in a proper way, but to submit your best scale recordings.
Awesome. Okay, now that personal solo video.
Yes.
Go ahead. So sorry, Rich, go ahead.
I was going to say, yes. This solo, again, there's criteria for these. If you look at each one, I think it just starts out in general. It says you select and play a solo of your choice. And then just talks about announcing your name and the piece before you play it. That's pretty important, because we don't know everything that's there. I know most of the pieces, but I would need to know your name. I'm sorry, the name of your piece. Your name. I'm just saying this. Your name. Announce your name and your piece before you play by stating the composer and the title. Sometimes people just start playing and I have no idea what piece that is. But we have asked all of you to make sure to look at the second bullet point, to submit a legible PDF copy. While again, I know most of these pieces, I'm listening to all the brass players, and I'm a trumpet player, and over all these decades of GSA auditions, I know most of the trombone and tuba and euphonium and French horn literature along with trumpet, but I don't know every piece, and sometimes there's new pieces and things I don't know. So it's important that I see that copy of music. So make sure you send a legible PDF copy that we can read, and then announce the piece again before you play it.
Amazing.
And then and as far as the solo videos, as far as selecting it says, I think there's some tips later, Paula, on this.
Yes.
You should make sure you play a piece that is in your, how people say, in your wheelhouse, something that you can do really, really comfortably and do well. This is the time to think about strategically picking a piece that you do best, that highlights all the good things about you. It would sort of be obvious, but sometimes people pick things because they think, oh, this is a college piece, or this is an upper level piece, and I think they'll be really impressed with this. So let me tell you something. The judges are never impressed with poor playing, even if it's a hard piece. You don't get bonus points for bravery. So if it's a piece beyond your ability, it is not wise to play that piece. Even if you've had a teacher or band director say, everybody's playing this, if you want to get in, you got to play this concerto or something like that. And that's not true, because if you don't play it well, you're not going to get in. So you have to make sure that you play a piece that you are comfortable with and that you can do well. So think about, talk to your teacher, talk to whoever might be coaching on this. Think about all the things that you do well and find a piece that emphasizes that. It would seem logical, right? You wouldn't want to find a piece that emphasizes all your weaknesses. So find a piece that emphasizes all your strengths. And then on top of that, try to find, again, you, and maybe if you're working with your teacher, whatever, a piece that you love to play, because that passion, that love for the piece is going to come out musically in it. If there's a piece that you're playing just because strategically it's a good piece to play, but you hate playing it, that's going to come out. And it's going to be not a very musical event, because you can tell you don't really like playing it. So find a piece that you love to play, and that's going to show off all the best things that you do. And I think that'll be a good combination, rather than just picking a piece that you think strategically the judges are going to try and be wild over.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, Rich, one thing that you said is we have it broken down very intently. So you see there are woodwinds and brass, there is strings and guitar, piano, and then and then percussion. So those are the categories. One thing that I will say is that if you are a person who wants to apply for more than one instrument, say you are a pianist, but you also play the violin, you are more than welcome to apply for more than one instrument. However, that would count for your 2 applications. So just wanted to put that out there. Okay. So I'm going to scroll down. Now, if you'll see here, we're on page 8. So the applicant guide for instrumental music, it is very long, but that is honestly for everyone's benefit, because it has all of the details. And again, if there's something that you have a question about, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll answer your questions. Okay, so moving down, now some folks are going to be invited to participate in the final round auditions and reviews that are going to take place in March. So for the final round, there are some different requirements. There is a questionnaire that has to be completed before audition, so that the adjudicators have enough time to review it. There has to be prepared ensemble pieces, personal solos, sight reading, and then an interview. Rich, is there anything that you would like to say about the final round requirements?
Yes, of course, there will be the prepared ensemble piece excerpt that is new. And that is something that the GSA administration will alert everybody to, as far as how to get that music. I believe, Paula, that's probably online. Mm-hmm. And it's very important you watch out for that. And as soon as that comes out, practice that. Now, a lot of people are sort of used to that type of audition where they get the music ahead of time, like Allstate, and you prepare this excerpt and then you play it later. GSA, you're thinking, well, I got my piece that I chose, which you can see under letter C there. personal solos on your chosen instrument, which you already did to get to this final round. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But in addition to that, there's this prepared ensemble excerpt. It's just an excerpt. It's probably just not even a minute long, but it's really, really, really important. See those three reallys. And I say that because I think a lot of students, they focus on their personal solo and then this prepared ensemble excerpt, which is typically an excerpt from a chamber music that we do in summer. So if anything, this really shows what you can do with some of the pieces that we typically assign during the summer. And if that is not dealt with as much seriousness and time, preparation as the personal solo, that's not going to help your scores at the end too. So make sure you spend as much time as possible as you can as your personal solos. Now you can't possibly play that as much as your solo because you might have been doing your solo for 6 months and you're only going to have this prepared ensemble excerpt available to you for 2 or 3 weeks. But you're used to, probably a lot of you are getting music and learning it quickly. So just don't wait to the last minute, because this is equally important. Even though you don't have months to learn it, you only have weeks, but it's just as important. So make sure that is given lots of attention. I have to say that because that doesn't seem to be the case, and that does affect the scores. So the personal solo, again, you can read the detailed instructions that we have on this, but you can use the same solo, or you can choose a different solo. And sometimes people ask and call in, which is more strategic? Can we just do the same one? Is that good or is that bad? Or should we do a different one? Is that better? So I would say typically, if you show more that you can do than the same thing, I think it's probably a better strategy rather than playing the same piece. Not that there's anything wrong with it, and not that people have not got into the program by playing the same piece, but it is telling if you submitted that piece on tape and then you play it for us in person, and it really doesn't sound any different over all those weeks and months. So if you are to play the same piece, it should show significant improvement from when you first submitted it on tape. That's strategically how, if you want to approach that. But again, personally, and I'm speaking for a lot of other instrumental faculty, it's probably best if you can choose something else because it shows more depth, shows more what you can do. That's what I would probably do. Sight reading is pretty self-evident there, that you want to make sure you practice sight reading before you do it. Some people think, I can't practice sight reading, but I'll give you a tip for that, or a little clue for this. If you practice sight reading, even just a minute or two a day, that will get your mind used to that. Because just like Allstate and some of these other auditions, you usually have something, you're given 30 seconds to look at it, and then you have to play it. What's different about GSA that may or may not be on this application is that you actually get to practice on your instrument aloud for those 30 seconds, because Allstate will not let you play your instrument at all. But we want you to do your best on this so you can actually play your instrument for those 30 seconds. But if you don't practice toward that, then you probably won't get better at that. And it's better to practice than just to cross your fingers and wish upon a star and hope it just gets better. So take a few minutes, even if it's 1 or 2 minutes every day, find 30 seconds of music that you haven't seen, practice it for 30 seconds, and then play it, and then just be done with it. And if you do that every day, you'll get used to the process of sight reading, as opposed to this whole mystical thing that you don't feel you're very good at. You just kind of hope that you do well and can't wait for it to be over. And then on the interview part, that is us going to be face-to-face, it's not behind a screen, talking to you about you and your music and everything that you do, and what what you are, how you are as an artist, and how you are as a person, and everything. So that's a face-to-face, and again, that's a very genuine, upfront, honest kind of conversation we have.
Amazing. Amazing. Rich, for the final round auditions, do folks need to bring copies of their sheet music?
Yes, they do. Definitely. Make sure you only need 1 copy for the judges. While there are 2, and even if it does say we need copies for each judge, we just need 1 copy. We're sitting right next to each other, and we can just use the 1 copy. But this is so important. We do need a copy of music for us to look at while you're playing. Some people get that confused, and they bring a copy of music, and they need that to read, and we have nothing to look at. And so it's important that you do bring us a copy. And if you're going to read, which most people do, a music, you have to have your copy. So there has to be your copy, and there has to be our copy. And it's sort of awkward when you don't have it, because first of all, you haven't followed the directions. And secondly, we don't have all these things memorized. So then we have to kind of look over your shoulder while you're playing. And it's not usually a very comfortable feeling. So make sure you have a copy for us. And typically it is an original copy of the music, not just a Xerox copy of something.
Amazing. Yeah, I want to make sure to point that out because we have a lot of folks who will come up to members of admin or volunteers and are like, can you all copy this? And sometimes we can help you out. Most of the times we cannot. So just make sure that you have your original copies for the adjudicators.
And I can also say, as long as there is one original copy there, we're okay. It's not like you need to buy a separate original copy for us and you have an original copy. If you have a Xerox copy that you want to read off of, that's fine, but there needs to be purchased for copyright laws and everything. You needs to be purchased a original copy. So if that's the one we need. And then if you were reading off of that one, then make a copy for yourself.
Amazing. So just scrolling down, you're going to see, depending on the category, like strings and guitar, final round. So you'll see the final round information for your instrument. So I'm going to keep scrolling. I'm going to keep scrolling. Okay, so Rich, looking at this criteria, could you just briefly touch on the criteria and just let us know anything that you would like us to know about it?
Okay, so looking at rhythm, tempo, evenness, I will have to say this because you look at this and this kind of gets lost in the writing in here, even though we wrote it. But this is something that's very helpful for everybody to know. In chamber music, you're kind of on your own. We will coach you, but you're on your own. So typically you're in band ensemble and you got a conductor keeping your place. You got a conductor keeping time. You got people around you playing the same music. And so if you get off, you can kind of look to them or look up to the conductor. But with chamber music, you're kind of on your own. So it is super important in your preparation of your prepared pieces and even the excerpt we give you that you play these things in time with all the proper rhythms and all the proper rests. Now, obviously, I think we've written this somewhere. If there's a rest more than 2 bars long, you don't have to sit there and count that out. We don't want to see you count in your head 24 measures of rest. So the rules, anything over 2 bars, just kind of take a pause and start playing again. But if it's 2 measures or less, count those rhythms out. If a note is tied into another note, count that out. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people have 2 half notes in one measure and the half note is tied over to, say, a quarter note in the next measure, and there's 3 beats of rest. And they just blow through all that, kind of ignore it all, and just start in the next measure after that. So if you're in chamber music, that means you are off, because when you just kind of blew through those rests, then you are not with that person in the chamber music because it's not conducted. So that's very, very telling, as if I don't know, we're thinking we don't know if this person can play chamber music because it seems like they can't count beats or rests. And while some of the situations might be as you might know that you fully well can, but you're just ignoring that. So I'm sorry, I'm sort of stopping on this point, but it's very, very important that everybody understand to count all your rhythms out, full value, and all your rests, because otherwise it looks like you don't know how to do that, and it'll be trouble with, it'll be problems playing chamber music. So everything else you can read as is: rhythm, tempo, evenness, technical accuracy, musicality, tone, all these things of scores. Everyone's used to that. The dedication to art form growth, that's the, the thing that we're looking at as far as your passion that we will talk to you about in the interview. And then of course the sight reading, we do have 2 specific ones. One is just a rhythm where you can play it on any pitch you want. And it's just like 4 bars of rhythm in some standard meter, whether it's a simple time of 4/4 or compound time of 6/8. It's just something standard to see if you can read rhythms without thinking about pitches, key signatures, or anything. You just can play that rhythm straight through. And then there will be the melodic sight reading, which obviously has pitches and rhythms and everything. It's got the whole shebang in there. But that kind of lets us know about the rhythms, because again, rhythms are really, really important, because if you get off of that, then it's going to be hard and stay up with chamber music. There's no one to help you. So that's kind of an overall summary of that, but I just want to emphasize the importance of the counting the rhythms and rests.
Awesome. Thank you, Rich. So as we have just like a few more minutes before we go into our questions. We have some tips here for selecting our music and for recording our application videos. Rich, are there any big picture things that you want to pull out and talk about as we think about tips?
Yeah, I can just add a little bit to what I said, but you can see a lot of these I already covered as far as strategies for choosing your piece. Again, I think we said, it's mentioned here, from the standard repertoire literature or equivalent music from your area. As opposed to just picking something from some little beginning method book or something like that. I think most people kind of know that anyway, but you can do transcriptions. It's not like it has to literally be written for your instrument. Those are fine as well. Again, just something you know, perform well, enjoy playing. I've already mentioned that before. The other thing is not too easy and not too hard. Some people pick, again, strategically, they think, I'm going to pick a very hard, difficult piece because it's a standard rep piece. And everybody who's anybody knows that this is a great piece. But if you don't do that well, don't pick that piece. And don't pick something that's too easy, because then we can't really judge that, because it was like at a level way, beneath your ability. It says jazz and contemporary music are allowed, but classical is preferred. So, and then I'd avoid using excerpts from auditions like All-State Music. It doesn't give enough of the picture a lot of times, and it really doesn't show what all you really can do outside of that All-State Music you have played for months and months and months. So as far as showing your initiative and what else you're interested in doing, it just looks like you're just going to churn out the same thing you've done for the past several months. So while some of the All-State Music can be tough, I would definitely pick something else again to show more depth of what you can do.
Okay.
And of course, the tips for recording, you can read all this stuff, but everybody should really listen back to it and say, are you happy? Are you pleased? Is this the best you can do? And if you wait too long, too close to the time period, if you're a procrastinator, you won't be able to re-record that because you'll be too tired, run out of time, you got school to deal with or something like that, or something to do with the family, and then you're just going to submit whatever you can. It's best to give yourself plenty of time to do this. Start early and just kind of see what it's like to record things and really listen back to it. And I'll tell you something else, which I've never said before on these, but you'll be surprised. Recording and listening back to yourself is different than just listening to yourself live while you're playing, because you can listen to it and say, oh, that sounds pretty good, not too bad. And I'd say everybody, I won't say almost everybody I know, even at a professional level, records themselves and listens back to it and they go, oh, did I sound like that? Really? I can't believe that. It's a quite different story. It's a different ballgame. You see all the nooks and crannies and all the painful things that you thought weren't there, and you're hearing them all. And so it will really, really help you to listen back to that early and say, wow, this is not acceptable. I can do better than this. I can change this, and I will fix that. Because you are, even though you're young and developing, your ears have progressed enough that you can listen back to recording and make a judgment of yourself and say, this is not acceptable for me, and I can do much better than this. And then you will submit the best recording you can. So start recording yourself early and listening back to it. And then you'll see what you really, really need to work on, and so that you won't be caught off guard in the last minute just submitting something.
Awesome. And then further down, we just have some tips for the final round. Those are very self-explanatory. Make sure you wear something that is appropriate yet comfortable. Don't overdress, don't underdress, be early, have copies of your music, all that types of stuff. Okay, so further down, you're going to see more application timeline, more of our application timeline and our deadlines. And then again, here is our contact information. So again, GSA is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can call us at 502-566-5192 during those hours. If you would like to email us, please do. You can email us at gsainfo@kentuckyperformingarts.org. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we are going to get into some questions. Okay, so someone said, roughly how many people apply for the instrumental music program and how many get accepted? So I'm going to tackle the first half of this question, then Rich, I'll read the other half and let you tackle it, okay? So I will say instrumental music tends to be our largest, maybe our second, one or two, either our first or our second largest art form. We see a lot of applicants, over over 300. But that's kind of the name of the game with instrumental music. And I will say each session, we take 49 students. And Rich can talk about this better than I can, but there aren't many, we don't go into the application process saying we're going to take 4 piano players or 6 trombone players or 1 French horn player. The orchestra, would that be the best term, orchestra, Rich?
What do you mean?
Like in the class.
Instrumentation?
Yes. So the instrumentation, thank you, is determined by the applicants. That is determined by the applicants we have that year. So just know that. And then the second half of the question says, do you choose who is, okay, so if there are 2 exceptional players on the same instrument, do you choose who is better? Also, do you choose who is better? Okay, so I'm just going to read it. It says, also, do you choose who is better? Or if there are 2 exceptional players on the same instrument, would you choose them both? So would we choose one person who is really great? If they have another counterpart, would we choose both great people? What's your thoughts on that, Rich?
Well, it's a much bigger picture than that because there are multiple instruments every year, but there, again, as Paula said, there's no quota. So you can sort of do the math. If there's over 300, sometimes maybe up to 400, and you're taking 49 each one, that's close to 100, then that's about 25% of the people who apply get into the program, like 1 out of 4. That's just as far as just looking at the odds, period. But if you're looking at specific instruments, we do not have a quota, although we like to balance it out. We can have a program with all flute players and no other woodwinds, but it does not ever work out that way. But I will say over all the years that I've done this, it greatly fluctuates. We have had 8 flute players, 8 saxophone players one year, and then one year we only had 2. So it really depends on the year. So answer your question about what if 2 are great? Would you take one? Do you have to decide between the 2? And we just look at everybody as a whole picture. So it's not like I can answer what's going to happen on that because we have to see what the whole picture is and who all's auditioning. So yes, we take multiple instruments over the years, and sometimes we've taken none. So that's important to know. There's no quota. If certain instruments, and I'm not saying they didn't apply. We've had one year that there were no tubas taken, one year no clarinets, one year was no cellos, and one year no oboes, one year no bassoons, and that happens if you have a lot of other area instruments. So that's good news for everybody because they don't think, oh, I'm playing a rare instrument, so I'm going to get in, or I'm playing a common instrument. And there's so many trumpet players in the state, I'll never get in because I'm trying to compete with all those. And that's not true because we could take 8 trumpet players one year and another year just 2, depends on the level and the preparation of the applicants. So don't let anybody tell you that there is a quota. While it does look balanced, and every year we do get a balance and stuff, and we do consider that, it just some years are a little lopsided. And like I said, we had one year with no double winds and no clarinets, and we had 4 flutes and 8 flutes and 8 saxophones. It was a very interesting year. We will worry about that part. And we've taken instruments that you don't think are typical. We've taken harps a couple years. We've taken a banjo a couple times. One time we even had a bagpipe player audition many years ago. Now they did not get in, but we would have taken them and figured out sight reading and everything and find out chamber music for them. We will take care of that problem because we would love to have anybody who plays an instrument of any type come into the program. So it's not like we only do this kind of music, and if you don't play the right quote air unquote instrument, you can't be accepted, and that's not the case. We will find music that will work for any set of instrumentation.
Amazing. Rich, for the prepared solo, can applicants use excerpt from a larger solo?
Yes, they can. It's advisable too, because if you got a concerto or sonata and there's 3 movements, and that's a good idea to pick one of those movements. Now, it's probably not a great idea to pick a movement or a piece of music and say, I'm only going to go from A to C and leave out everything else because it's too hard or I don't have time to work on it. So you should kind of, if you can play a complete piece or a complete movement, that would be best, rather than kind of picking and choosing a few measures here. Now, for time's sake, we will have you jump around. and sometimes say, let's just start here. Let's not do these measures and let's do that. But you don't want to come in and say, I'm going to do the second movement and I only did these 10 measures because I like that. And the third movement, and I do these the best, and that's how I'm going to play. So that's kind of picking and choosing a little bit too much. And you need to pick either a piece that you can do the whole thing or a movement. So yes.
Awesome. Is it acceptable to submit an excerpt from a solo piece if it exceeds the time limit?
Yes, it is, but we will not hear it. So again, we will, even if it's in the time limit, we will pick and choose the areas that we need to hear.
Gotcha. All righty. Would you all like for applicants to count the rest out loud, or do they need to only count the rest in their head?
Just count it in your head because it will be obvious. Whatever time you have been playing along, we will assume that's the time that's going to stay, unless the piece says to accelerate, accelerando or something, or retard during those 2 bars. We will assume it's the same tempo you've started out with during that time. And again, you are going to be counting out things of 2 bars or less. So if there's anything larger than 2 bars, longer than 2 bars, like 4, 8, like that, don't count all those out, even in your head, aloud, or anything, and just kind of rest a little bit and go back to playing it.
Amazing. Cadence says, is there an instrument that more people apply for over others? For example, like more guitarists more guitarists than the rest. I will take this answer and say that it really just depends year by year. There's not a like tried and true method to it. It just depends on our applicant pool. So I'm gonna say, it's gonna sound so cliche, but just apply, because you never know.
Yes, and if you do play in 2 instruments and plan to play them, I would suggest, sometimes people trying to hedge their bets and play 2 instruments. If you play them both well, that's good. If you play one well and one you just sort of started learning and barely play it, that's not really a good thing to do, because you want to make sure that you play them both well. And sometimes we have accepted students on 2 instruments. That happens every now and then. So I don't know if you all know the Pentatonics and the beatboxer named Kevin Alushla, but he was a GSA alum who played not only cello, which you've probably seen on commercials, but he also played saxophone in my jazz band. So he was accepted on both areas. So if you do pick 2 instruments, think about both of them and make sure they're 2 strong instruments that you play.
That actually is a perfect segue to another question. This person says, if I'm proficient on a quad mallet piece for melodic percussion, but I am better on a regular double mallet percussion, would you suggest taking the quad mallet piece since it's a rare proficiency, or use the double mallet piece that I am better with? So if I'm hearing you correctly, Rich, I feel like that is apply with the instrument that you are better with. Like go with, sorry,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the terminology, if I'm understanding, is talking about 4 mallets versus 2 mallets.
Yes.
On a keyboard percussion like a marimba. And some people are not comfortable with the 4 mallets. And if you're just learning it and you're not comfortable and it's not going to sound good, then maybe you should stick your best foot forward and just do a piece that you're really strong at with just 2 mallets. But that is sort of a tendency or the expectancy a lot of times people, and just let you know, you are competing with a lot of students who do play a lot of 4 mallets type of thing. So, but I do understand if this is new for you and it's not something that you're really comfortable in and don't do well, then maybe do a really bang up job on just 2 mallets. Because with percussion, as you notice, you have to do a keyboard piece and not everybody's a super strong keyboard player. And so that's why I could see strategically someone would want to do a 2 mallet piece that's stronger than a weak 4 mallet piece, and then hit us with your other required percussion instrument, because some people play a killer drum set, or they're great with multiple percussion, or maybe they're really, really good with snare drum or timpani. And so then you can, kill that part of it as well.
Amazing. So someone says that they're slightly confused on the scales portion of the audition when it says play the required scales in your keys, not concert pitch. Specifically for those who are transposing instruments, they say that they are a trumpet player, so they would need to transpose for concert pitch. So for example, in the packet, when it says C scale, would that be our C scale or the concert C scale, which is a trumpet's D scale?
Yeah, it would be your C scale. So that's your C, open, no vowels, C scale. If it says D on there, that is your trumpet D. That's 1 and 3. D scale, not concert D, where you have to change it to your E. And even though some of those scales might be in there, it's going to be your key. Same thing with French horn, clarinet, anybody who has a transposing instrument, it is your pitch on your instrument, not the concert one. So be specific. And like I said, don't think of those as concert instruments or concert pieces, because you're going to end up in way too many flats and sharps.
Amazing. Someone says that their son plays the trigger and the bass trombone. Rich, would that be considered the two applications for two different instruments?
I just saw that, and I assume they mean tenor trombone and bass trombone, a tenor trombone that has a trigger. It doesn't say that, but I assume that's what they mean. That they might be confused about what their son's playing, but I'm guessing that means they play a tenor trombone that has a trigger and then a bass trombone. And I would not really call those two separate instruments. You should pick one of those that you do best at, and then just mention that you play the other. You can maybe have the other handy in case they might want to hear that, but that's kind of like coming in and saying, I'm going to play flute and piccolo. And even though they are two different animals in a sense, you should say you play the piccolo, and maybe you can bring it and just hold it on the side and say, let's give us 5 or 4/8 bars of that in piccolo or something like that. But mostly those instruments are too much similar. So tenor trombone, bass trombone, just pick one of those, and flute and piccolo, just pick one of those, and then basic B flat clarinet and bass clarinet, just pick one of those. I would not play a B flat clarinet and spend money and do another audition playing bass clarinet. I'd see somebody playing clarinet and French horn, piano and guitar, those type of things. And if you're going to stay on the brass family, then it'd be trumpet and trombone, or, you know, like violin and viola. Those are two separate instruments.
Amazing. So what if the music that a student's going to be performing was arranged by their teacher and their teacher just gave them a copy? Do they need to get the original music from their teacher?
I'm not sure if the teacher, how he wrote it. So at the very least, just a letter from the teacher saying that I didn't handwrite this thing. This was done on music software notation such as Finale or Sibelius. And so this is the product that looks like a printed copy, because it is. It comes out of a computer. And just a short letter that say, this is, you know, the original, because it was done on music software that comes out of a computer off of a printer. It's not from a publisher where you're buying it that way. So that'll solve that.
Awesome. So 2 more questions I want to address. The application asks if you play in a jazz band. If you don't play in the jazz band, that is okay. We understand that not every school is going to have the exact same thing. So it is that is not a requirement that you play in a jazz band. And I see someone asking how hard is it to get into GSA? I will say, you know, there's a question we get all the time, but I would not focus on how hard or how easy it is. I would just focus on putting forth your best material. That is at the end of the day what is going to matter. We don't really like to spend time talking about how easy or how hard it is, because someone's easy is another person's difficult, and we're not here to judge each other's work in that way. So just focus on putting forth the best application material you got.
Well said.
All right, so we're about to wrap up. Do we have any other questions? Speak once, speak twice, forever hold your peace. The octave requirements for the scales, Rich, that will be located in the applicant guide, correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
As far as which scales to play and how to play them and all that.
Yes.
It's very, very detailed. I mean, they can always call in if they don't see something or if they're confused by it. But, you know, every year we spend lots of time to make sure that this is exactly what you need and nothing's left off, as opposed to a lot of workplaces websites that are not up to date. They say we have a long time, but we update these every year, so everything should be detailed if you read it. If not, let us know, and we'll give you 1,000 bonus points if you find something we didn't say. Now that's not literal. That's not real.
I'm about to say, let it be known that Rich said y'all will get 1,000 bonus points, not me or Natalie.
Yeah, they're not real. They don't count. It's just like, whose line is it anyway?
Amazing. Well, this is a fun question to kind of to complete our night. Rich, someone wants to know, what's your favorite orchestra?
My favorite orchestra. Wow. My favorite orchestra always growing up. I don't know if it's changed now, but Chicago's always been one of my favorites. And I got to see them when I was up in Chicago as a grad student. It was pretty amazing.
Okay. I don't think we've ever gotten that question.
Oh.
So that's pretty exciting. Okay, well, y'all, thank you so much for taking the time out of your nights to learn more about GSA's instrumental music program. Of course, you can always contact us, but as Rich said, please, please, please go through your applicant guide. Read your applicant guide from top to bottom. It will have the information that you need. If you've gone through the applicant guide and you have another question, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can call or email us, but please go through your applicant guide so that you can, oh, you're very welcome, Sarah, so that you can have an amazing application experience. So Rich, Natalie, anything else?
Nope. I hope that was helpful. It was good talking to you, and I wish everybody the best.
Amazing. Rich, it was so good to see you.
You too.
All righty. So my friends who are on here, we are going to be ending the ending the webinar. And there will be a short poll that's going to launch, I'm like tongue-tied, a short survey that is going to launch at the end of the webinar. Please take the survey. It's really helpful for us to gauge our recruitment efforts. All righty, friends. Have a great night. Bye.